This is my Ring of Honor Final Battle 2010 Internet pay-per-view review. The pay-per-view just went off there. And I gotta say, this is another good pay-per-view outing from Ring of Honor on GoFightLive.tv. If you missed this show earlier, they'll probably put the show up either probably late tomorrow night or sometime Monday if you missed this show and you want to see it and you're hearing all the buzz about it. Or if you haven't checked Ring of Honor out, I would highly recommend. This is one of those types of shows that I think if you haven't seen Ring of Honor before, I think you would like this show a whole lot. There's a few things I would say could have been a little better. There's a few matches on the undercard that didn't get nearly as much time as what they should have got, especially the women's match. I wasn't expecting something great from the Daizee, Haze and Kong taking on Sara Del Rey and Serena Deeb. I wasn't expecting a classic or anything, but I was expecting a little more from it. Christopher Daniels and Homicide was a good match. That was the battle of the two ROH legends. It was a good match, but it didn't get enough time, and I thought the ending was very, very weak. You saw a great opener on here, and really the last three matches on this pay-per-view is what makes this a great show, and I would say for only $15 on Go Fight Live, it's well worth your money. And actually, this time on Go Fight Live, this was the first time that they've done their pay-per-views. This is a year ago is when they started doing these shows on GoFightLive.tv, and they've had minor difficulties. Obviously, the worst one ever being was their first one, Final Battle. Then they pretty much improved it. The last couple ones, there was like the stream went down for a little bit. Something happened to their servers. That didn't happen at all on this pay-per-view. At least on my end. You might be hearing some other people saying something happened on their end, but when I was watching it, didn't cut out at all for me at all. The audio was perfectly fine. Really, the only audio problems that there ever was on the show is probably when Papa Briscoe tried to do his promo. You could hear what he was saying, but you had to listen very closely. That was pretty much the only huge problem on here. And a little at the beginning of the show, the hard cam seemed like it was a little darker than what their other cameras they were using. They fixed that out pretty quick. Those were the only minor difficulties there. But as far as, did the stream go down at all? No. It seems like they updated their player that they use on GoFightLive.tv, and they updated their servers as well, because they definitely worked out a whole lot better this time. Hopefully, the next pay-per-view works out as perfectly fine as this one did. But like I said, the last three matches, you had the Kings of Wrestling and Shane Hagadorn versus the Briscoes and Papa Briscoe. That was a very good brawl. Actually turned out a little better than I was expecting, because I was thinking that maybe Shane Hagadorn and Papa Briscoe's involvement in it might hurt it, but it actually didn't hurt it at all. It was a fairly fun match right there. And then Roderick versus Davey Richards was a hell of a world title match. And if the next match even out-topped that, which was what they did on this, they were claiming that Ring of Honor officials don't want to be held responsible for what happens with the Steen and El Generico match takes place on here, the Fight Without Honor. So pretty much changed it to kind of like an unsanctioned match, still under the Fight Without Honor, and the same rules in general for the match. If Steen loses, his Ring of Honor career is over, and if El Generico loses, he has to take off his mask. So those three matches right there made the show well worth it, especially the opener of the show, which let me get into my review right now. The first matchup on this pay-per-view was the All Night Express versus Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole. This is the first time I've ever seen Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole in action. Kyle O'Reilly, he was trained by Davey Richards, so that right there, he's going to be something good, and he did not disappoint. Pretty much seemed almost exactly like a mirror image of Davey Richards. Kyle O'Reilly, I think this guy has a lot of potential, and he could be something big for the future of Ring of Honor. And the tag team in general with him and Adam Cole, I think that tag team could do a lot of good stuff in 2011. And I think the All Night Express, I'm a huge fan. Always been a huge fan of Kenny King. Rhett Titus, I got to say, this year alone, he's really improved a whole lot from what he used to be. He always had that charisma. He always had that good character. And he always could play to the crowd, but he never was really that good in the ring. I gotta say, this year he's really improved himself in the ring. He's pretty much became an all-around performer, I gotta say, and he's done a good job of improving himself this year. This is a damn good opener, good back-and-forth action. The crowd was really into this. This is like I said, great way to start the pay-per-view. The All Night Express win this match after they do the springboard blockbuster combo to Adam Cole, with Kenny King getting the win, and the All Night Express picking up the victory. And I would say about a 3.5-star match. very good way to start the pay-per-view. Then the next matchup was TJ Perkins versus Colt Cabana. Now, this started off a little slow, and it did have those little parts within it that were kind of boring, but you saw some good stuff in here with mat work, I gotta say, and it did pick up in parts. It was pretty much a decent match. I wouldn't say it was, good match. It was good for what it was. TJ Perkins, I wouldn't mind seeing him in Ring of Honor. Colt Cabana, I gotta say, he's gotten very, very stale. They need to do something with his character or something. I don't think his Colt Cabana, I don't think he can play a heel or anything. Obviously, he can be serious when he wants to, but I don't think he can play a heel. So that'd be the only way they'd have to, repackage him or rebuild, do something new with him right there to try to, breathe some new life in his character. Because his character is very stale. But this match with T.J. Perkins was, like I said, decent. It was okay for what it was. Colt Cabana picks up the victory, and I was about a 2 1/4, 2.5 star match. Then the next matchup was the women's match, women's tag team match, was Sara Del Rey and Serena Deeb versus Awesome Kong and Daizee Haze. And this was a good women's match. It was obviously, a whole lot better than what you would see with your average and your typical WWE Divas match, but that's not really saying much. I was expecting a whole lot more from this. It really didn't get as much time as what it should have been, and you didn't really see that much, interaction between Sara Del Rey and Kong as I thought there should have been in this match. Serena Deeb did some good stuff in here. Daizee Haze and Sara Del Rey, they always have some pretty good chemistry with each other. So it was a good women's tag match, but I was expecting a whole lot more from it. I'll say about, within this match, the way the match ends is Sara Del Rey, she hit the Royal Butterfly to Daizee Haze, then 2 pile drivers to Daizee Haze. So Sara Del Rey and Serena Deeb pick up the victory in this match. And like I said, it was a good women's match for what it was. Expecting a little more from it. I'll probably give it about 2.5 stars. Like I said, just was expecting a little more from it, but it was a good women's match for what it was, but like I said, I think a lot of people would probably be saying they expected a whole lot more from it. It didn't get enough time, I don't think, either. The next matchup was Sonjay Dutt versus Eddie Edwards. This was originally going to be Eddie Edwards versus Kenny Omega, but Kenny Omega got injured on his Japanese tour of Noah. So that right there took him out of here, and they replaced him with Sonjay Dutt pretty much at the last minute. So since they threw it together at the last minute, and Sonjay Dutt is a good performer. He's a good worker. I don't mind him at all. But, from what we originally was going to have, which was going to be Kenny Omega versus Eddie Edwards, that was a match probably going to be an incredible match. And you just got a good match here, which, saying you got a good match isn't bad, especially since, something that, Ring of Honor, they couldn't help it, that Kenny Omega got hurt in Japan and he wouldn't be able to participate in this match. And they threw together something, at least they didn't have, Eddie Edwards versus Daivari again or someone, really terrible. Sonjay Dutt's a good worker, and they worked fairly good with each other in this match. Eddie Edwards wins this match using Kenny Omega's finisher, and I would say about 2 3/4 star match. It was good for what it was, and maybe it could have been given a little more time because, like you're hearing with this match, the previous match, probably could have been given a little more time. But for the time it was given, I think they did some good stuff in here, and especially since the match they pretty much threw together at the last minute. Sonjay Dutt did some good stuff in here. I gotta say he's a good worker, and like I said, they could have put some Eddie Edwards in there with someone even worse. So it was a good match for what it was. Then the next matchup, well, actually, before the next matchup, they went to intermission, and during intermission, you saw a sit-down interview with Jim Cornette and the World's Greatest Tag Team, Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin, and within this interview, they made an announcement in here pretty much saying that they're going to be seen more frequent in Ring of Honor in 2011, so don't know if they signed a contract with Ring of Honor or they're just going to be on a per show basis, and they're just going to be used more frequently in 2011, which is going to be a good thing. And one thing I can't wait to see is them and the Briscoes. That's one of probably the biggest tag team dream match right now in wrestling. I think everyone would just love to see. And then if Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin after their Ring of Honor run, if they, I'm pretty sure Shelton or Charlie Haas will probably go to TNA at some point. It'd be good to see them take on the Guns as well. So the World's Greatest Tag Team, they just can do a lot. There are a lot of dream tag team matches I think a lot of people want to see, and the Briscoes is one of the top ones, so it looks like we'll be seeing that in the future, possibly maybe at the next internet pay-per-view, which is going to be in February. I guess they're going to be doing the 9th anniversary show. I think that might be an internet pay-per-view because they did say something about a February internet pay-per-view during the broadcast. And then the next matchup was Christopher Daniels versus Homicide. This was the Ring of Honor Legends Collide. And this was a good match. They worked very well with each other. You know, with these two competitors, you expect something good. And they had a good match. Now, the only problem with it didn't get as much time as what it should have been given, like you heard me say about two other matches, which really those were the downturns of some of the matches that weren't as good as what they possibly could have been, not because they were bad matches, but mainly because they just weren't given enough time. And this was one of the big ones that should have been given more time right here. And the ending was very weak. The way they ended it seemed like a Russo-esque type ending, where Homicide, he took off his shirt, threw it in Christopher Daniels' face, pretty much blinded him for a second, then hit an Ace Crusher. Very weak ending and finish for the match right there. Like I said, just didn't get enough time. But for what they did in here, I would still give it 3 1/4 stars because it was entertaining for what it was, but the main problems with it was just didn't get enough time, and the ending was very, very weak and had that Russo-esque type feeling to it. Then the next matchup was the Kings of Wrestling and Shane Hagadorn versus the Briscoes, Jay and Mark Briscoe, and Papa Briscoe, Mike Briscoe, or Mr. Briscoe, whatever you want to refer to him as. This match, going into it, like I said earlier, I was a little area of this match because I thought maybe the involvement of Shane Hagadorn and Papa Briscoe involved in here instead of having just a traditional, tag match with the Briscoes versus the Kings of Wrestling. I thought that might have hurt it, but didn't hurt it at all, and they built it up very well with, the way they got, Papa Briscoe's involvement in the feud and Shane Hagadorn as well. And they both did what they were pretty much supposed to do. Shane Hagadorn, when he was in there, he was pretty much, getting his ass kicked. And when Papa Briscoe is in there, he's doing some comical stuff, doing stuff like that. And obviously, the Briscoes, Jay and Mark, and the Kings of Wrestling, Chris Hero and Clive Castagnoli did what you always expect them to do, which is work very well with each other and put on a great match, which this was a good match. Now, out of their matches, this obviously doesn't go up there with their previous matches they've had against each other, the one at the Big Bang and Death Before Dishonor 8. But this was a good match and a fun, kind of brawl, and they did stuff like that. And like I said, the involvement of Shane Hagadorn and Papa Briscoe did not ruin it at all. Papa Briscoe is a very entertaining character, I would give him that. And just, a fairly fun 6-man tag. The Briscoes win this after at the end of it. Papa Briscoe, he actually hits the Doomsday device onto Shane Hagadorn, and right when he was going up there, I think I'm probably not the only one. Probably a lot of people were like, "Oh God, he's going to fuck this up and either injure himself or it's going to look really bad." Actually, he didn't fuck it up at all. He did it perfectly for as good as he probably could have, and didn't botch it at all. So that was a good thing. And the Briscoes pick up the victory. So with that, you're probably going to see the Briscoes and Kings of Wrestling for in a tag team title match, which I think they are taking on each other maybe sometime in January or possibly they might take on each other in February. But they're obviously going to have another match with each other, and they'll probably, even though they could probably just end the whole Shane Hagadorn and Papa Briscoe stuff right here, they could kind of, have the closure be here, but I don't think it will be. I think we will have to see a singles match with them too, which that right there, since you're not going to have the Kings of Wrestling or Briscoe's involvement, that will probably be pretty bad, but that'll probably just be something maybe they'll do on HDNet or something they'll just throw on one of their events. It's not going to probably be anything that's going to take, much time away from the show, but probably will have to endure and sit through that, though. But a very good 6-man tag. Then the next matchup was the Ring of Honor title match. This was Davey Richards versus Roderick Strong. Great world title match. They pretty much just went out there and did everything. Within this match, you saw pretty much them two just beat the living hell out of each other. It was just a fun match right here. You saw the Strong style from Davey Richards, a lot of, brutal strikes and stuff like that. Roderick Strong as well. There was one spot where he hit a backbreaker off the top rope. They did a table spot in this match. Within this match, I don't even know how many Gibson drivers Davey Richards took. Probably at least 3 or 4 of them. There was a lot of good submission work in this match, especially one part. They did excellent submission reversals in this match where they had, I think it started with Davey Richards having the ankle lock, then Roderick Strong reversed it into the ankle lock, then Davey Richards reversed it into the Texas Cloverleaf, then Roderick Strong reversed it into the Stronghold. And that was great right there, and they did a lot of stuff in here. Within this match, I don't know exactly where it happened. It might have happened right at the end of the match because there was a part within the match where it looked like Davey Richards pretty much just passed out. He did get a concussion within this match, so I don't know if they were planned to go a little longer or whatnot, but they went at least probably a little over 30 minutes. They had a hell of a match right here. Davey Richards, busted his ass. Roderick Strong as well. And Roderick Strong's proven himself as, a solid champion. I've done a better job as Ring of Honor champion than what I thought. And I think they could have the title on him for a little bit longer. The match ends with Davey Richards pretty much passing out from the stronghold, and that was the end of the match. And I would say about 4.5-star match. Easily, the second best match of the night. If it wasn't for the main event, this would have been the match of the night right here if it wasn't for the Kevin Steen and El Generico match, which was a great match as well. And like I said, Davey Richards got a concussion in this match, which really doesn't shock me. Them two went out there and busted their ass, and if Davey Richards walked out of this match without a concussion, I would have been shocked. And I think other people probably would have been shocked as well if he didn't. Next matchup was the main event. This was the ending of the show, which was the Kevin Steen versus El Generico unsanctioned match, Fight Without Honor. Ring of Honor was running a storyline pretty much going into the week of this pay-per-view that Ring of Honor canceled this match, and it wasn't going to take place because Ring of Honor didn't want to be held responsible for what Kevin Steen and El Generico would do with each other. Then it turned into an unsanctioned match where, since it's an unsanctioned match, Ring of Honor would not be held responsible. That's the way they did the storyline right here. And it still was a Fight Without Honor match, and the stipulation stayed the same, where if Kevin Steen lost this match, he's done with Ring of Honor, and if El Generico loses, he has to take off his mask. And pretty much the way to explain this match in just one word, awesome. That's what this match was, just a awesome match. Great match right here, and a perfect ending to the feud with Kevin Steen and El Generico. Just love this match. Too many insane stuff to even talk about in this match. They did a table spot in this match, a couple ladder spots in this. There's one spot where they had a table placed above a ladder that was placed between the guardrail and the ring. El Generico dived through it and did the DDT that he normally does through the bottom rope to Kevin Steen, but he did it through the table and ladder, and that right there was just great spot right there. They did just everything they pretty much pulled out within this match. Kevin Steen was busted open very early in this match. He was bleeding profusely in this match. El Generico was busted open as well, because at one point Kevin Steen pretty much was trying to rip the mask off of El Generico, and he pretty much opened it enough where he got busted open above his right eye. He was bleeding pretty heavily for a little bit as well, and just the sick, sadistic side, the really psycho side of Kevin Steen even came out even better than some of the recent months within Ring of Honor. I just love his character. It's a great character. He's this egomaniacal, this crazy character. He's a complete psycho. Just think they pull it off great, and he plays it very well. And the end of the match, I think, was perfect. What they did at the end of the match, El Generico did pretty much everything to Kevin Steen. Kevin Steen was pretty much on his knees, pretty much praying, don't do this to El Generico. El Generico had a chair in his hand about to hit Kevin Steen. Kevin Steen then pulled out El Generico's original mask. Then El Generico, held the chair for there a second and just thought, and then he whacked Kevin Steen in the head, and that was the end of the match. Perfect way to end it, basically exactly the same way that it started, with the chair shot, Final Battle 2009. Just perfect way to end it. I think they played it off very well, and just an excellent match right here. Some people probably will give this 5 stars. I would say if you give it 5 stars, I won't have any problem with you if you do, and I think a lot of people probably will be giving this 5 star. I would probably give it about 4 3/4 stars, just a little under 5 stars, but it was an incredible match and a great way to end the feud. And easily the Kevin Steen and El Generico feud in 2010, easily the best feud of the year in all of wrestling. There's not one feud that comes close to even topping this feud. You saw great stuff throughout the whole entire year with Kevin Steen and El Generico, and I'm glad that Ring of Honor chose to have this main event, since it's obviously was dubbed as their final encounter at Final Battle, and it was just great right there. And I'm glad they didn't go the route of Kevin Steen winning this and El Generico having to unmask. I think that would have been the worst route to go. Now, as far as Kevin Steen Not sure how they're going to do this. I don't know if Kevin Steen is leaving Ring of Honor and he's going to one of the big two companies, TNA or WWE, or most likely, obviously, either way it goes, it's obviously a storyline nonetheless, but we don't know how Ring of Honor is going to play this off. Hopefully they do a better job than what WWE did with the complete flop and the complete failure of the John Cena Nexus thing, John Cena's firing. Hopefully they do a whole lot better job than that, which I don't think anyone would have a problem out topping a firing angle that was as bad as that one. And this one probably, I don't know how they'll do it. Obviously, maybe they'll just write him off for a little bit, then he'll come back. But obviously the way they'll do it, when he comes back, he won't feud with El Generico because this is obviously the final match they'll have against each other. It'd be idiotic to continue because they just ended in the best way possible. El Generico still has his mask and everything. I think that was the perfect thing to do because when you have a match when someone has to lose their mask, which if El Generico would have lost his mask, that would have been the end of his career. What else would he do with Ring of Honor? He wouldn't work as well as he does without a mask. And with Kevin Steen, when you have a fired or you're done with this company angle, they can always write you back in. They can't, after someone takes their mask off, it doesn't come back the same way that, it would, with the firing angle. So I think Ring of Honor did this smart move right here, having Kevin Steen lose this match and El Generico win it. And obviously, with this type of thing, year-long feud, you probably you had to have the babyface win in. Just a great match. Overall, I'll give this pay-per-view a 9 out of 10. The last 3 matches were great. The opener with the All Night Express versus Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly was a great opener. And the other matches on this pay-per-view, really, you didn't have a bad match on this pay-per-view, but you did have a few other matches that weren't the opener or the last 3 matches that didn't get as much time as possible. And obviously, unfortunately, you didn't have Kenny Omega on this show. That was probably one of the biggest disappointments, other than some of the matches not getting enough time, was that Kenny Omega got hurt in Japan and he couldn't take on Eddie Edwards, which I think a match a lot of people were looking forward to. But other than that, great show from Ring of Honor. Like I said, I still think Death Before Dishonor 8 is probably their best show, but this show came very close. I would say you possibly could say it tied it. I know a lot of people might be even saying this top Death Before Dishonor 8. Yeah, that's it for my Ring of Honor Final Battle 2010 Internet Pay-Per-View review. Peace.